Gentlemen, Mr. Weiss, thank you for having this, spending this time with us on talking about the RUMERTIME process here in Benton Harbor.
Aren't the acoustics amazing in this room?
Yes, I love the background music.
He does this with the students.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yes.
That helps, you know. Mm-hmm. I'm sure it does. I'm sure you know that.
A lot of times, you know, when we're doing just study work, I'll put on instrumental Disney.
Oh, okay.
They won't write, what's this? And then they'll start hearing from Disney movies that they've seen in the recent past. And all of a sudden, now it's playing in the back of their minds. And I'm one of those weird scientists that I look at things not just so much in the curriculum itself, but I know that there's been brain studies from people a whole lot smarter than me that says, you know, if people study and relax with music, a lot of times the comprehension increases.
It increases.
And so I try it, and I've had some successes with it.
Wonderful.
And if I can add too, and he is a humble scientific Scientologist.
Well, I just wanted him, before you do that, I wanted him to introduce himself.
Yes.
Tell us about this, and then you will come back to Felicia.
I'm Kevin Weiss, known around here as the crazy science guy. I like to be a little bit off the wall in my teaching. I like to blend, making kind of an eclectic blend of traditional, modern, and just craziness in the lab. And sometimes with today's kids, you know, you gotta do something a little bit outside the box to get them to learn. I had kind of a diverse past. Right out of high school, I knew there was no way I was making college. I went in the Navy.
Okay.
I was in the Navy, loved it while I was in there, got out, and I went to school at Michigan Tech. Then I worked in an office, which was not my idea of a fun time. I'm not an office person. I have to have interaction.
Right.
And I dabbled around several different jobs in northern Michigan. Moved down to Grand Rapids and started coaching hockey in the youth hockey league. And my now wife said we set up a tutorial program through the hockey folks and pulled teachers in from all around. And everybody said, "You're a great teacher. Why don't you go into teaching?" Oh, no. So I left a very lucrative business. I was a site supervisor for a property developer. And
he cultivates seeds.
Yeah.
Lives. Families.
So I completely changed my career path and went back to school at Grand Valley, got my teaching certification, and then started off at Dream about 10 years ago and haven't left since.
Wow.
And this is what I call life chemistry.
Oh, yeah,
Life
that's awesome.
chemistry. Yes.
And I think the fact that you have so many, your experiences are so diverse, and you had that experience about not wanting to really go to college, I'm sure it helps you connect with these kids even more. Because if you can give me some more background on Dream, the kids here are different from the kids at the high school. And what is that? What is the key difference in terms of their ability to stay in the regular, traditional high school?
I think that really our kids are no different than the kids at the high school, and that they are victims of the system, in that they have fell into a perpetuation of, I'm either going to pass you along because we need the numbers, or you're a really nice person, or you're a real pain, and we're just going to move you along. And everybody in Benton Harbor is moving away from that, but now we still have to fix the holes in their education, and that's what we're here for.
Right.
Some of it may just be I need a father figure, or I need someone just to talk to, just to lean on. And people ask me, how do you run your classroom? I say, well, you know what? I run my classroom with an iron fist. I don't take any nonsense, but every kid in here knows I have a soft shoulder that they can lean on.
And that is key. That is so key in terms of relationships. Having healthy, predictable, consistent relationships is the absolutely best intervention for kids, especially who deal with trauma.
And my kids, I love them, and they know from Jump Street, that if anything happens in the classroom, I'm going to be right there. And it doesn't matter if somebody's having a little emotional breakdown or if somebody is ready to just throw down and fight the whole world. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to de-escalate the situation. And you know what? I can't help every kid.
Right.
But I'm not afraid to ask for help.
Right.
Yes.
Hey,
And that's what we
can
found
you help
out.
me? Can you help me? Can you help me? Can you help me?
Yes.
And do you have a connection with so-and-so? Do you have a connection? And I will find someone who has a connection to say, hey, so-and-so is having this issue today, and they're not going to make it in class. Because if I keep them in class right now, they're not in the mental state to be educated.
Right.
They're in a combative state, and I have to have that de-escalated completely before they're ready to learn.
And so that's
a
where
great
you.
segue.
That's a very good
Yes.
segue into how you and Ms. Harvey or Felicia have collaborated with the science and the RUMERTIME process. So tell us about this relationship that you guys have in terms of making this RUMERTIME process work with your students.
Well, if I can interject here for a moment, what I'd like to say is not only do we cultivate the seeds of our students, but we also cultivate the seeds of our staff as well. And I shared with you, as I'm rumerizing students, I always feel like I am also a rumerizee.
Right.
So I'm a rumerizer as well as a rumerizee. And I feel that when the teachers, and especially like with Mr. Weiss, we really had a really good connection. And coming in and having that ecosystem set up, carved out to say, hey, this is what RUMERTIME represents, and with the 5 social emotional competencies, is that I think that the teachers now have a self-awareness, and when they become self-aware that I am at a zero tolerance,
right.
my self-management as an educator kicks in, that I need to manage the relationships that are within the infrastructure or the diverse settings of my classroom, and to maintain that healthy relationship management, also make healthy decisions, and also be socially aware of whom I'm being as an instructor within my setting. And so when his self-awareness kicks in that I'm at zero tolerance, and I need some management for this student who is completely imbalanced, then that's where the two of us can collaborate. And then I'll let you extend beyond there. But that's my observation, that the teachers also are starting their whole new rumors as well.
Good.
Yeah. So.
Well, the big thing, and I love having, we're just 2 doors down, they're laughing and singing and having a party. But having her
all that jazz.
Physical proximity. If I have an issue, like I see my freshmen right after lunch, and then the way the lunch cycles through, I also see my sophomores right after their lunch period.
Okay.
So they come in, and if they have a typical teenager lunch, which is loaded full of carbs and sugars, they bounce off the walls and then crash. Well,
They need a timeout.
and a lot of times during that peak, when they have that huge sugar rush coming in, some of the emotions go a little bit crazy, and I say, yeah, we need to take a little walk. And I'll try first, go right outside the door and say, oh, come on, we got it. You really have to settle down. We have to regain our focus. Let's get through this, because you can do it.
Right.
We just have to get you refocused. And then instead of sending them down the typical disciplinary route, we'll run them through the rumerizing, and I'd say probably 9 times out of 10, it's done right there. Because now all of a sudden, instead of generating paperwork and having a suspension and having makeup and all this stuff, and having the kid, the worst part is having the kid out of class, because I can't teach someone who's not here.
Right.
And we have somebody, okay, they missed one, maybe half of a class period versus a week suspension.
Right.
And with that week suspension, they're out of the growth atmosphere, and they just can't
catch
back up.
Yeah.
And now they're behind, and then it just snowballs, and the behaviors go crazy as well.
So a couple of things you said. One, the proximity to your space and the daytime intervention room is an asset.
Huge.
2, the relationship between you and Felicia helps you to know that in order for this child to be performing at their optimum, you trust Felicia, and you trust the process, you trust the RUMERTIME process to help you get that child back on track in a short space of time, so that they don't have to lose too much instruction, which then snowballs into them becoming imbalanced, missing longer, and missing so much more, feeling overwhelmed with how much more they have to make up. And so the marriage between the classroom teacher and the RUMERTIME intervention specialist is harmonious. And
it has to be, because it's got to be a buy-in by all parties involved.
Because he trusts, and I feel that I've set up a space with him, that I've sown and cultivated his mindset to accept and receive the process of implementation that I've been designated and been certified and trained to do. And excuse me, we have a collaborative trust, because if I come to the door, it's either thumbs up, thumbs down, can I enter? I just give him that look, and he'll do one of these numbers, or he'll even call for me, and I just know. So when he signals for my awareness, I stop immediately what I'm doing, because that's that self-management piece. It's RUMERTIME to the rescue.
Right.
And so something or someone has been triggered. And it may even be the teacher. We just never know. But whatever that is, the relationship that we have, it's always to generate imbalance to balance, no matter who is in the recovery mode.
Exactly.
And he allows for that to just exist. And that helps me to be more successful, because now the students don't see don't see me as a threat.
Right.
They see him as a hero. They see him as someone who's thoughtful and considerate enough of wanting the student to receive the recovery, so they can come back in and receive the instruction.
And also another thing that they see is that they see a healthy relationship,
a professional relationship.
They see that.
Yeah. No one gets fooled in the game.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that also models that relationship management skill or competency.
Yes.
And what is great is sometimes I'll even have somebody that I can see that, they're a little bit off. Are they all the way off balance, or they just need a tweak? And I'll catch them on the way in, and I'll just say, hey, do you need 5 minutes?
You sure?
Yeah. And a lot of them will. Yeah. They'll say, and so they're now aware that, hey,
he recognizes
Weiss isn't out here just to write people up
right.
And I also inform them when they come in. Oh my goodness, I it's a rigor abrasive. But when they come in, I immediately let them know, because your teacher is aware of what you needed, that you need some self-management for yourself, and that something has been triggered. Your time is off balance.
Right.
And so you need a timeout. That is love. That's unconditional love.
Yeah.
And you need that social security. See, that's social security.
Absolutely.
And so I remind them, and it's a word pollen of investment, that I connect the student back to the relationship with the teacher. Because the first person that they want to blame for their behavior is the teacher.
Yeah.
And it's unacceptable.
Right. And it's so critical what we have this discussion. It is so important for kids to see, students to see continuity of care.
Yes.
It is critical for them to see that in terms of their own development, their own social emotional balance. And that is what this relationship offers to the students. And I would encourage other teachers to seek out the RUMERTIME intervention specialist. And not just intervention, but I also call it the RUMERTIME Prevention Intervention specialist, because it's not just to intervene in the time of problem when there's a problem, but it's also to prevent, to help the students.
See, he recognizes
get the skills.
He recognizes the imbalance because the relationship that he already has with the students, he knows when someone's off and when someone's
exactly.
on. And
exactly.
So that's you can tell that there's the relationship that's there, a pre-existing relationship that's not formulated through rumor time, but one that's already been established.
Exactly.
And so then I help to keep that balance.
Exactly.
And I help to keep the recovery. And when it becomes off balance, is to reconnect them back to the expectations of self and classroom.
Right. And so he now feels even more supported. Mr. Weiss now feels even more supported because you're close by in terms of physical distance, but also there's a process that he can say, okay, I'm kind of at my end.
Yeah.
I know somebody who can help me, help this kid. And I know even though you say you can't help everybody and none of us can, but at least you have at your disposal
You know what I love?
a resource.
What I love and what I love about having the relationship that I have with the science teacher, and like I call it life chemistry, is that there's no penance that the student feels for having to go out to get imbalance, to get balance.
Yeah.
And sometimes if a teacher doesn't buy in
Right.
to the unknown, because see, they're not in the space to hear the change, nor to see it, nor to feel it,
Right.
nor to observe it. So there is a preconceived interpretation that one may have of it. Who can be gone for that long? All that talking, what good is it going to do? And so when they come back in, there's an abrasiveness that one may have towards
the student. Yeah.
And it's like, so you went out to go get what? I don't see a difference. I don't see a change.
Right.
There's no repugnance. There's no penance. It is, okay, well, maybe I need to send you out to get a little bit more. But you can see the equity that becomes built up that over a course of time, and hopefully, and I'm going to ask you this, over a course of time, if you've seen a student that, I've inherited a student at the onset of a school year. So it takes a little time for time to change. However, is to allow that mutation to occur, just like science. It's a mutation of a lot of things, whether it's scientific, whether it's chemicals, whether it's gas to liquids, liquids to solids. It still takes a mutation of time in order to see that process take place. So if I can ask you, and please just tell me, what have you noticed or what have you observed from some of the students that and I'm going to use agricultural terms, excavated or extracted from your class, and hopefully have de-weeded some of the behavior so that they can come back in and sow their mindsets through instruction so that they have some balance?
The biggest thing I've seen is the increased ability in the students to de-escalate. Instead of going
self-management,
going off the deep end for something little, I can grab it. And DC is one of my kind of pet cases.
Yes.
A little girl, and she's just full of energy.
Yes, she is a vibrant
And
vivacious little.
she has her self-control issues, but after several sessions and earning trust down the hall, I feel confident I can come up and say, hey, refocus. I can do it really quietly, or she'll come in and I'll say, come here. Yes, come here. Come here. We have a good day today. Just something little.
right?
And she'll say, oh, okay. And just, she is recognizing the fact that I'm aware that she has something going on. And
before?
Before it would just be she would have that same issue and she would literally run across the tables to get after whatever it was. Yeah, whatever it was.
Wow. And since spending time in the...
I think it was Mr. Weiss that brought my notice that I think she needs you. Whatever it is that you offer, whatever you're doing, whatever you need to do, she needs some of that.
And so from the time she started working in the with the RUMERTIME process, you have seen that ability to manage self increase
drastically. And I think a big thing is your ability to make them self-aware. Make them aware that, okay, hey, these are some of the things that trigger you. These are some of the ways you are reacting. Let's look at some other reaction possibilities.
Some more strategies.
And if you can, instead of running across the tabletops after whoever is making some wise, you laugh.
That's
and I'm
why
serious.
That music is on in there.
I'm serious.
Oh, she actually, I mean, like on the table.
No, she actually,
over there.
she was sitting over there, and she ran across the tables and tackled a young man who was over here.
Oh my goodness! And that was at the beginning, and now she may get up, but
she'll get up, say a few things now,
and then that will trigger her to manage herself. That is amazing.
And then I witnessed them walking down the hallway, and Mr. Weiss will have his arm around her. Hey, kid.
And she's about that big.
Yeah, she's
really?
Yes. And she's like, huh? And I see her just talking and with just cajoling, but I could see him giving her a message. See, he's invoking a message of balance.
Right.
She's receiving. She's open to receiving.
She's open to receiving.
Yes. Whereas before it would be like, I don't want this man. I don't want this man. Well,
and that's the power of two things. That's the power of relationship, right? And then also the power of you in the RUMERTIME, with the RUMERTIME process, helping her to recognize the self-awareness. And that's what you said earlier. You said one of the things Ms. Harvey does is to help the kids become so self-aware and giving them the strategies. And that is the foundation to the RUMERTIME process. The first step in the RUMERTIME process is to recognize, becoming self-aware. And she is clearly doing that. And when it's done in collaboration with the classroom teacher, and you're able to, you understand the language, you understand the process, you are able to then reinforce. Because what you're doing when you say is helping her to be self-aware, right? It's helping her to recognize, okay, I'm about to take off at at a top speed. Let me just.
And you know what? This is why I think it would benefit the teachers as a whole, as a staff, as a curriculum.
That's part of their training.
As a part of their training, because now we have PBIS that we have for our building, and there's PDs that they attend, but just the two of us in our own interpersonal relationship that becomes intra within each other,
right?
Is that I'm able to share my language and my pollen. He's able to share his scientific dialogue of management, and we work together with it. And so if he had that tool of reference to say, you know what, I can use a few of these things before it even gets to the point where they have to be sent out of the class.
Exactly.
Imagine if every teacher had that, because it helps. And again, and something that I want to piggyback off of what Mr. Weiss shared, and one of the things that I think all teachers despise is paperwork. And especially when they're in the middle of their day, in the middle of their classroom instruction, that they have to stop and interrupt instruction to write out a referral or to write out paperwork, or at the end of the school day to conclude with documentation when everyone's trying to get out of here.
Right.
Sometimes even have to stay after school to do some additional work with kids. And at the end of the day, at the end of the night, you have to take paperwork home. Can you imagine if they had the tools of pollen as well, and if they understood some new strategies and tools that we often use that would help benefit and supplement behavior in the classrooms, that would cut down the paperwork for them as well before even coming to us.
I think a big part for the teacher is, you don't need to know all the functions and how to do your job, or in the detail and ability of your level, but to recognize the function of each person's job.
That's a good.
People should know that I'm down here teaching hard science. I'm not teaching psychiatry. I'm not teaching sociology. I'm teaching hard science. I'm teaching earth science, biology, and chemistry.
Right.
In health, we actually,
I was about to say, you've
I
incorporated some
do
health in there.
reinforce a lot of
Yes.
it because they're not getting it.
Okay.
So I cover it through biology in
Okay.
human body systems.
I even
Okay.
came in the class a couple times to listen.
And
Okay.
Yes.
but people know what my function is, and one thing that has to be, it has to go further than just me, is I haven't changed since September. As far as here's what I'm expecting you to do in my classroom.
Right.
I am going to expect you to come in. I'm going to expect you to put the cell phones away and the headphones away and take your hats and hoods off. And I'm going to expect you to be orderly, and we're going to learn in here. That hasn't changed.
There's a precedence of distinction that he sets for his class, but I will just say to anyone who's listening, we're sitting here listening to the observation, the perception, and the vision of a Teacher of the Year that has been recognized.
Oh,
by
well,
the
congratulations.
state. Yes,
I didn't
yes.
know that.
A couple years ago, Mr.
I won
Weiss.
an NSTA National Fellowship from Dow Chemical.
Okay.
And in that, they sent me to the National Science Teachers Association National Convention, which was down in Indianapolis.
He's a really big deal.
Yeah.
Really big deal.
And I got I jumped into it because it was it was a huge network for me to access. It was like giving me the pearl of science and the whole shell.
Right.
Well, I got into it so much, and I was so involved in the interactions and the webinars and everything that they brought me back the second year as a facilitator.
Oh, nice.
So I was a National Science Teacher Academy alumni,
Ah.
and they brought me back and they took me into Houston that year, and I actually did a presentation in front of about 6,000 people.
Oh, wow.
He's a
amazing.
master cognitive chemist,
And
Scientologist.
I was too scared to be nervous, I guess.
Yeah, too scared to be nervous.
Yes.
But the big thing is if you understand not the nuances of the hows and the details of what kind of techniques and what kind of material is being covered, but what is the purpose of that person in that area? Like, we should all know, hey, the purpose of the cafeteria folks is to serve a nutritious meal to their students.
Right.
Okay? And if you understand that part of it, you can, hey, why don't you go grab a regular milk instead of free chocolate milk? So
Right.
feel better with that. And if you get into the functionality of their position, you can get a working knowledge of it.
Exactly, a working knowledge.
And that's my biggest thing is, these kids a lot of them aren't going into a science-based field. But they still need to have a working knowledge of how the world works.
Yeah, absolutely.
So am I going to make them memorize the periodic table? No. That's way beyond, that's archaic, because one, if they go on to a science class, that thing's going to be on every science classroom that they ever walk into from here on out.
Right.
To have them memorize it is silly.
Right.
But to have them be able to use it.
And understand that from a
the
from a consumer perspective. How does it impact my daily life? How is this going to help me become the better person? Pass the test, do those kinds of things that are.
And the terms of science.
Yeah.
How do I mix?
Yeah.
And the big thing is, you can be a better consumer of information. Because that's one of the things is, the commercial, it has to be true, it was on the internet. But a lot of people take what's on the internet as truth.
Right.
And if you have a good knowledge background, a working knowledge of chemistry, biology, and earth science, you can be a better consumer of information about everything.
Yes.
Whether it's investments or health or social issues, you can make a better decision based on fact that you can digest and interpret.
Absolutely. And you know what I like as well, what this discussion is shedding light on, is that as a science teacher in your field, you see the interconnection or the interconnectivity between science, hard science, and the soft science, which is the social emotional component or development of your students to be able to be successful. And a lot of people don't see that connection. They think, oh, they poo-poo it. And to have a hard scientist, not a mad scientist, a hard scientist.
I was going for mad scientist.
Because I'm a social scientist, but you're a hard scientist. And to hear from you lived experiences of how the soft science, the social emotional development of students is embedded in their success in your science class and across the curriculum is phenomenal. And if you can maybe speak to that some more about how you see it connected.
Well, I would love to, because I am a huge proponent, and I learned this from the NSTA, of the next gen science standards. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but the next generation science standards are the creme de la creme of curriculum. It's designed by multi-layered scientists of all disciplines, hard science, soft science, and it integrates math, English, history, all together with the sciences.
Wonderful.
And instead of a linear path, it's a web.
Wonderful. That's how it should be.
Just like we used to in science learn the food chain.
Right.
We all know that not all rabbits only eat field grass.
Right.
Guess what? There's an eclectic diet out there, and if all those things go away, then the rabbit population drops. Okay, middle school science. But we know that there's a lot of things that control populations the same way that a lot of different things impact growth in the ability for a student to pick up knowledge in the sciences. For example, if a student is upset emotionally, they're not going to grasp material and retain it.
Say that again. Look into the camera and say that again.
What did I say?
If a student is...
If a student is
emotionally upset,
if they're not
then they're not going to
in
grasp.
check, or in your words, in balance.
That's right.
If they're not balanced, they're not going to grasp the material and retain it. They can put on a good show and say, yep, and they can spit the information back to you. But for them to have any depth of knowledge whatsoever, they have to be in a stable mindset.
Yes.
When they sit down and when they attempt to do something new, they have to have an open mind to it. And if they have some kind of
Weeds
disaster
the weeds
growing, guess what? It's not going to be retained, and they're going to miss parts of the steps through. So yeah, do hard sciences and soft sciences connect? Oh yeah. and if you don't believe that, we all feel good because our bodies release dopamine. So this soft sciences say, oh, it's an emotional expression. No, it's a chemical expression. But it's a chemical expression of an emotional state.
Say that again.
It's a chemical expression of an emotional state. We feel good because when we feel good, when we laugh, our bodies release dopamine, and that's what makes us happy.
Yeah.
And I tell you what,
all connected.
Every piece matters.
Every piece matters. Every piece matters.
Yes.
And that whole ecology of the human body, the ecology of our environment, every piece matters.
And that's what it is in Rumor
Yeah,
Time.
that's
Every
what
piece matters. And just to tie that in, and let me say why, again, Mr. Weiss is a really big deal, because we just had a student who, I loved her project, by the way. She was so ecstatic about her science grade. And I said, what grade did you? Oh, an A. And I'm like, that is stellar work. And I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, you're a really big deal. And your class would be a place where her behavior would abscond. And then she would have an expectation of wanting balance for herself when she realized she was imbalanced. And and I think with Mr. Weiss, he would check her gauge to make sure that it's your balance that you need a timeout for, and not you trying to take a timeout to go make a phone call in the bathroom because of a relationship and a mismanagement issue. And because there's an integrity in Rumor Time as well, and in time away from class instruction. but the message that you wrote to her
That was powerful.
is for lifetime.
Yeah.
And the way she embraced your words.
Yeah. She came into the room just
Yes.
glowing.
Yes.
Glowing. And she
Yes.
was like, she was almost walking on air. When she came in to show you the first time.
Yes.
You could see.
You could see
Because
it.
I saw her last
Yes.
week.
Yes.
And I saw the difference in posture.
Yes.
When she walked in to show Miss
Yes.
Harvey her poster. And then when she came
Because she was
back.
working on it.
Yeah, when she came back with your
Board or
words.
reflection
Yeah.
board.
She was even more, she couldn't stop smiling.
Yeah.
She is a special young lady because early in the year before you arrived,
Yes.
she had a little altercation, a physical altercation. Well, I always tell my kids the only one getting hurt in my class is me. I'm a very selfish person that way. And they all laugh. Yeah, whatever. I say, if you want to fight, it doesn't
That's
belong
the
to
naval man coming out.
And she got going, and I'm not a teacher who sits back on his hands. I got right in between her, and I said, "You're stopping right now." And her anger got the better of her, and she tried going through me, which is not a good thing because I played a lot of football in my day. And as a left offensive tackle, nobody gets around me because that's my quarterback's blind side. I can't do that. I can't let my guy get hurt back there.
Right.
So she tried going through me, and I just grabbed her around the waist, picked her up, and took her
Oh
down
my
the hall.
goodness. Like a sack of beans.
And I talked her down. She got calmed down. We got her. She had a little time off of school. And in her time off, I sent a work packet home, and I told her to do it in Google Documents and share it to my email address. Well, and I've still got it. And she sent everything, and then she sent just a real brief email. I said, "Thank you, Mr. Weiss. I'm sorry I lost my temper and got into physical altercation. But thank you most for believing me when I stopped believing in myself." And I take that to heart.
Yeah.
So
Because
now
it's-
when you said about the stars, you said if you shoot somewhere in the galaxy.
Shoot for the moon.
for the moon.
Yeah.
Even if you miss yours, you hit
still
the
a star.
stars.
Still in the stars.
Yeah, and those are the kinds of things.
And it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out.
Right. Those are the kinds of things that help these kids move on. There's not so much as the content, but it's that relationship.
I think it's
they
the
know
context.
I was gonna say the
Context.
context of the
Yeah,
relationship.
it's the relationship is critical. And she also said, we had an interview with her, and she said she remember coming into the DIR with anger issues.
Yes.
And she used to come in so
Think?
many
Yes.
times, and that her parents, had recommended she get some anger management counseling. But since she started going to Miss Harvey and using the RUMERTIME process, she doesn't go back to the counseling. She only uses the RUMERTIME process, and that has helped her. So she said, I come in a whole lot less.
Yes.
And if I come in, it's just to kind of hang out with Miss Harvey.
And one of the things she shared was that over the course of summer, because she was a student that was off caseload, that was able to access RUMERTIME resources because her teacher recommended and referred that, hey, can you spend some time with her? So that again shows the relationship that we have and the trust.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, excuse me, with that, and knowing that the end of the school year is transitioning, and sometimes the behavior still will have a trigger,
of course.
and because it's still going to reoccur because there's some things that are still deep rooted, but nonetheless, she said, I want to keep my mindset clean. She said, so I need to help. So I need the resources to help keep my mindset clean. And so we were able to recommend an outside support resource. And she came in this morning 3 times. I need to know when am I scheduled so I can have some balance to keep my mindset clean.
Right.
But that's someone now that is taking ownership
of her, who she is.
Of who she is and who she's becoming, more importantly. Yeah. So now that she has that A from you in a difficult class like science,
exactly.
She thinks that she can master
anything.
And
that's what I told her. It's just the ability to work your way through, because we all have challenges in life.
Of course.
One of the things I share with my chemistry students, because in my opinion, bar none, chemistry is the hardest subject for a high school student, the average high school student, because it's all conceptual. We don't see chemical reactions taking place. We can see the results of a chemical reaction, but we can't see that.
Right, you can't see
the atomic structure and the electrons moving. You can't see that.
That's almost like seeing the seed development of a seed.
You can't see it because when it's in the soil, you're not seeing it. All you're seeing is the result of it.
And I share freely with my students. I said, hey, the first time I took general chemistry at Grand Valley, I failed. I said, I didn't fail like a 59. I failed with like a 49. It wasn't just a little bit. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I thought, I'm never going to be able to teach. There's no way in this world I'll ever be able to teach because I can't learn this stuff. And it took me to go to a mineralogy class because my major was earth science, and I love the geology, and I love how rocks form and crystals form and everything. And I picked up a quartz crystal, and the professor, and I still keep real close touch with him, his name is Kevin Cole up at Grand Valley, handed me a quartz crystal. And he said, yep. And it just clicked. That crystal structure had the same lattice as an SiO2 molecule. And I just went, I get it. I can actually do chemistry now.
Oh, good.
Because I was holding,
that was your aha moment.
I was holding a molecular lattice structure, but in a framework that I could visualize, so I could wrap my head around that.
Right.
So I made a point that I have to be able to explain things 4, 5, 6 different ways to kids.
So that different kids will get it in a different explanation.
And he did the same thing for his final exam. He gave him 3 different options. And find the one that fits.
That's what kind of a learner is about. Exactly.
Yes. And we were talking about that this morning.
Yeah. It's kind of like, what kind of soil are you?
Yes.
Well,
I have a gift for Mr. Weiss at the end of this.
What kind of soil are you?
Yes.
Because the soil is where the fertilization takes place. And when you put the seed in, right, it depends on the soil, and it depends on the type of soil that there is.
Yes.
Is how plentiful or not your fruits are going to be.
But not only that,
right? And
you have to be
nurturing.
I was about to say, you have to be
fertilizing.
A master cultivator to know how to nurture each seed and how it's growing.
Exactly.
And sometimes
will have weeds.
You can't be too afraid to chop things back.
There you go.
We say
have to prune it, right?
Yeah.
You have to do that. You have to chop it back. Get rid of some of the weeds. Get rid of some of the...
Get rid of the overgrowth. Get rid of the junk.
Exactly.
And let's go on.
So I have a question for you. Would you recommend, after seeing the RUMERTIME process take root in probably a good amount of your students, and watching the turnover from how they arrived,
the transformation,
who they were, the transformation, yes ma'am, of how they arrived, the transformation of their seeds being cultivated and some of their weeds excavated and extracted, and recultivated through RUMERTIME. Do you see this as a process or a framework that you would trust to be instituted or be rooted in different districts and schools and in curriculums beyond where we are here?
I think
a tool of a resource.
I think that RUMERTIME is a wonderful tool. I think it needs to be understood more by the classroom's teachers. I took the time and I took the energy and I took ownership of finding out what is this RUMERTIME stuff. We had one day back in September where we were introduced to it. And now what? Right. Now we're just there's somebody down the hall that's taking these people in, they talk, and I don't know what's going on. So I took it on myself. Hey, what is this rumor time stuff?
You sure did.
Is this some kind of hokey abracadabra stuff?
Right.
Because I'm going to tear that all up. I'm going to annihilate that. That's going to be the next Titanic of Benton Harbor area schools, if that's what it is. And when I started looking into it, it makes sense. Because it's geared not just for kids, but it's geared for all the stakeholders.
Yes,
absolutely.
Every piece
Because
matters.
even though the student is the center, you've got to have some administration, you got some teachers, you got some home life, you got some friends, but all that stuff contributes to the formation of this student. And if you don't have everything on a relatively level playing field, you can't have peaks and valleys day in, day out, because there's enough turmoil, especially with our kids' lives, because we have at-risk students. I'm not afraid to say it. I'm not going to mask it. I tell it the way it is. While I'll never make a politician. If you don't want an answer, don't ask me the question.
Right.
Because I'm going to tell you what I think.
Right.
These kids have enough turmoil in their lives as it is. The one thing that they should be able to count on is a solid, stable, consistent school life. That's why I am so against all the fighting and all the nonsense. Whether it's verbal or physical, it takes away not only from a learning environment, but it takes away from a student's stability. It takes all the stability out of that environment, and it takes generally 2 to 3 classes for it to settle back down, even for a loud verbal interaction.
Yeah, because it goes from classroom to classroom.
Right.
And with today's modern technology, good grief, it's all over the place, and within 30 seconds it's on the internet and being seen worldwide.
Right.
And no, these kids need something solid and stable, because if I did construction for a lot of years, you don't build a foundation of a house on some rubble.
There you go.
No, you build a solid foundation, and then you can build up. But until you establish that solid foundation, firm footings, you can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
If you're going to build these kids, you have to do foundation.
Yeah, you gotta go to the root. You have to take care of the soil, you have to take care of the root in order for us to see healthy fruit, which is behavior, right? In the cultivating seed system framework, healthy fruit is considered behavior. So let's take a little break.
So I just wanted to
okay.
This is, I have a gift for you. I even took it from your own room. And this is Miracle Grow.
Okay.
So when you need your next behavior break, try new Miracle Grow. Seed starting potting mix. Only the finest and purest granules are in this delicious blend. So I want to say thank you, Mr. Weiss.
A delicious blend.
The biggest thing is the inclusion of a lot of BS in the fertilizer.
But as we can see, he's a master cultivator.
Oh, absolutely.
And a magnificent sower. And I just want to say thank you for the relationship, the interaction, the intra and interpersonal connection that we had. You've been absolutely amazing. You provided me a lot of balance, which has ultimately led to my balance for many students. And I hope too that you have felt that on days perhaps maybe when you were self-aware of some imbalances that were taking place in the infrastructure or the diverse setting of the classroom, that you were able to find some balance through my support as well.
I have been.
Yes, so
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So we're going to present you with this Miracle Grow Award.
Yeah, let's come together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Hold up your Miracle Grow.
Rumor time.
Rumor time. Listen,
time.
potting soil.
Rumor time and science come together.
Like chemistry.
Yes.
At its best.
Thank you.